Hey guys, Robert here, and I got with me one of the main guys from Running with Scissors, but one of the best known for the Postal games, Mike J. Mike, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, man.
Yep, and the Postal games. Any of you guys who know about them, you know how batshit insane they can be. And anyone that doesn't know, check them out, but careful, you might get triggered if you're one of those types, but that's as far as I'm going to go in that type of talk. So, Postal, tell me, how did the first game, where did the inkling, the idea come from?
Well, that was a little before my time, not much, but basically the company was working on children's games. I mean, award-winning
Oh,
children's
really?
games. Yeah, we
Really?
used to make games for Hanna Barbera, Sesame Street, all that stuff. And at a certain point, the company just wanted to make its own IP and make a game that they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to play. So they branched off a team, and with their royalties, they started working on what is now Postal One.
Yep. And well, do you ever know was the idea was that though of just going around shooting people? Was it just decided? It's from
It was
yeah,
sort of
decided
just
like.
meant to be something that you could take out your aggression on, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of like the modern pet rock, just a game where you could do what you might want to do in real life, but you can't.
Right.
And
Except for one thing in the last level, of course, the final level. That's the one line you wouldn't do.
well, it doesn't work anyway, right? Like it's just
Right.
it's just a bad
Hallucination.
game. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. But then of course things blew up with controversy over it,
Hmm.
obviously, and
Yeah.
yeah, is that what probably got people being like, "Oh, we got something here. Let's continue on with it," or
Um,
yeah.
well, we didn't really expect it to be that controversial because violent video games were everywhere, but it was.
Mm-hmm.
And, getting banned and blacklisted, while it isn't a nifty marketing tool, it isn't always the blessing you'd like it to be, right? Like you want
Right.
people to buy your game. You don't want people to have a problem buying your game.
Obviously.
I mean, long term, it has given us a name to live off of, but we're still living in the shadows almost, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're relatively popular on Steam, but we're not on Xbox and they won't approve us. We're not on Google
Oof.
Play Store. They won't approve us. We're not on the Apple App
Yeah.
Store. We
Never
finally
gonna
have a
go
game on
anywhere near.
Play. Right, we finally have a game on PlayStation, which is not the biggest surprise, but having a game on Nintendo Switch is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're happy to be there, but yeah, I mean the controversy just never went away. So
Yeah.
that's kind of who we are.
Yeah, but then eventually you then did two, which was basically well, let's just say an open, try and get your chores done and survive every day type of simulator.
Right, and the sort of there was a shift in what we cared about, right? Like Postal 2 is
Mm-hmm.
actually funny. It's humorous,
Oh
whereas
yeah,
Postal 1 isn't particularly humorous at all.
not at
Um,
all.
and that's kind of just the direction we went from there. And by the time Postal 2 came out, we're like, this can't be that controversial, right? Like GTA 3 is the biggest game out. We shouldn't have a problem getting a publisher. We shouldn't have a problem getting on stores. And of course, we had all kinds of problems. So it was like,
Yeah,
here we go again, and
yeah,
it just kind of kept going that way, and it's still going that way. So
yeah. The funny thing, what I like best about two though is you don't have to do any of the killing. It's
no,
hard, but
no,
you
and
don't
that
have
was
to.
right. That was sort of one of the directions we took, was that the game was only going to be as violent as you are, right? Like everybody freaked out at Postal 1 because you could all of a sudden shoot civilians. But with Postal
Mm-hmm.
2, yeah, you can, but you literally are not told to. There is no mission in that game that tells you to shoot anybody. The
Yep, it's
game's
just do your
reacting to
task.
you, and it's easier if you do, but the
Mm-hmm.
missions are not anything to do with killing people. They're just very basic things like get milk, cash your paycheck, pick up
Exactly.
steaks, vote, piss on your dad's grave, things like that.
Exactly. And yet, seems like everyone has a problem with you, and you keep adding all these new enemies, and you're like, oh, avoid, avoid. Up, on.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just typing to someone. They said, "What's the name of the company?" Running with Scissors.
Yep.
Yeah,
Running with
where did
Scissors,
that
the
name
game
come
series
from?
is called Postal. Well, Running with Scissors is one of those things that your mom tells you to do when you're a kid, not to do. So our,
Yeah,
our company represents, everything your mom told you not to do.
right. So obviously, you did the first 5 days, and you did the Apocalypse weekend.
Yep.
And a whole bunch of insanity just keeps on going, but eventually you do get to a point in the apocalypse where, well, you pretty much, it's harder to avoid not killing anyone by that point. Was that because it's
Yeah,
the apocalypse? Well,
Apocalypse
that's,
Weekend. Apocalypse Weekend doesn't follow that same open world, don't kill anybody vibe. It really was just a linear zombie shooter. That's just kind of the way
yeah.
it was, and of course, I'm the
Hmm.
final boss in the game. I turned into a
Yep.
giant mad cow. So that was my
That
big
is,
breakout moment.
yep. And the fact that you guys exist in the world itself has been established since the second one. And that
Yep.
must be a lot of fun being able to do like, what guy, and let's make ourselves the biggest assholes, right?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing to people to say is, when they're like, "Oh my god, how could you do this?" And we just say like, "Well, but you can pee on my neck hole. You can chop my head off. You can kick my
Exactly.
dead body." Like, we are making fun of ourselves too. We're trying to make sure people don't take life too seriously. Like, it all is meant to
Exactly.
be funny. So,
Mm-hmm. I've laughed every time I've gone through these games. I mean, okay, the first one, not so much. I go through that in the Redux more just out of a completionist sake.
of
Which
course.
actually, going back a bit, was the Redux. Is that a replacement of the first one, or is it kind of like, I don't know, I doubt you guys have like a consistent timeline, but it feels like it's kind of in its own little thing because the dates don't add up with the
The
other
dates don't
poster.
add up, and there's a new ending. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
really just depends on you. We're not
Mm-hmm.
really huge on the whole history
Timeline
kind of thing.
continuity
Yeah, we
thing.
don't care. Our games are all bullshit, so just expect it to
Exactly.
be like bullshit.
Yep. Now, the third game, that a whole bunch of fiascos and everything. And
Hmm.
we don't need to go over the behind the scenes stuff of it, but anything you want to rip into shred about the game, no? I mean,
It just sucks balls. I mean, it could
it
have been a good
does.
project. Things were going good, and when the economy tanked, everybody left the video game industry in Russia, and instead of canceling the game, they finished it with worse developers, and even the worst developers after that when the worst ones left. So, it was kind
Mm-hmm.
of like it was just kind of like a bad game of dominoes where shit just kept falling, and instead of the game being canceled like most bad games are, it ended up coming out. So,
Yep. And I've seen fans who are trying to fix it. I keep on telling them, good luck if you can, but I even I feel that game is kind of unsalvageable, even with modders and all
yeah,
that.
yeah. We've
You'd have to
we've moved
redo the
on.
grain. Yep,
Yeah,
which
we've
led
we've moved
into
on.
you guys putting Postal 2 on Steam through the Greenlight. That's no longer around. Do you think if Greenlight, if you try to do it recently, do you think Steam would have let you, or do you think Greenlight was the only way?
Well, I'll tell you what. Without Greenlight, we never would have been on Steam, and we had been trying. I mean, Postal
Mm-hmm.
3 made it onto Steam right out the gate, and they sort of said yes to that because we were using their engine. It wasn't like they were
Right.
big and happy to put Postal on Steam. They straight up told us pretty much no. Like, your marketing doesn't fall in line with us, your product doesn't fit our catalog. And when they put up Greenlight, we were like, okay, cool. Well, let's let the people vote. And at first
Mm-hmm.
they said they took it down, but they didn't take it down because it was Postal. They took it down because they thought some fan was just posting it themselves. So,
Ah.
that's kind of all, recent history now. I mean, we got onto Greenlight. People voted us in right away. We were in the first or second wave of games. And all of a sudden we were selling all these games, which, I mean, look, we're not talking about, early on selling millions of games. We're just, we're selling tens of thousands of games out of the gate. And we're like,
Mm-hmm.
holy shit, this
Oh
is
yeah.
great. And one of the things we told people was if we make it through Greenlight, we'll add, Steamworks and achievements and all this shit. So at first we put together a tiny team of modders, and
Mm-hmm.
they added all the Steamworks stuff into Postal 2, updated it a little bit. And then it got to a point where it was like, okay, we have a bunch of money from this. What should we do? And it was either make a new product or give them more content for the product they bought. And since we were all Postal 2 developers, it was like the easiest, least path of resistance was to make an add-on for Postal 2. So, it's relatively unheard of to make an add-on 12 years after a game comes out, but we did it. And yeah, it took longer than we would have liked, but it definitely it definitely worked out. I mean, people loved
Yep.
it. It's one of our better games.
Mm-hmm.
And we're happy that it's on Steam. And from
Yep.
there, we moved on to Postal Redux after that, which was a huge risk
Mm-hmm.
because historically Postal 1 is not our greatest seller.
Right.
We sort of hoped that updating it would make it a better seller, and it didn't. I mean, it's not
Ah.
like it hasn't sold units, but it really hasn't made a lot of money.
And around the same time, you had another company doing a very similar game, was Hatred. When you guys heard about that, how did you guys react to that?
I mean, I watched the first trailer and I was kind of like, well, yep, that's a game. I mean,
Yep, but
we're not the Postal 1 devs anymore, really. Like even
right.
Redux is lighter than Postal 1, and Hatred makes Postal 1 look like a light game. So,
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying they don't have a right to do it, and they're huge fans of ours, and we like them. They're friends, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's not really in my purview of games I really wanted to play. That said, it's not a horrible game, and they're good
Right.
developers. So I'm glad they had the freedom to do it.
And you put nobody in Postal Redux as well as a little secret.
Yeah, that was they're fans, so we wanted to give them some little bit of
A shout out, a
little
shout out.
spotlight. Yeah, exactly.
But with Paradise Lost, I mean, that pretty much ended up becoming a Postal 2.5, 3.5, however you want to look at it, where you basically made 3 a nightmare, but you
Yep.
still kept references. Like you brought in Corey Cruz. That's the actor, right? From
Yeah.
3 as
Yep.
another side for a Postal guy, and yeah, just
Yeah, I
so much
mean,
of the stuff.
Corey wasn't
Yeah.
the problem.
Oh yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. He is.
I mean,
And,
to be honest, back then, before everybody hated the game completely, everybody was obviously bitching about Corey because they wanted Rick, and it's not like
mm-hmm.
it's not like we wanted to do it, but Corey did a great job, and people, with rose-colored glasses, they look back at him in Postal 3 and they realize that was the best part of it. So,
Exactly.
we've kind of kept him around. He's a good guy. He lives in Tucson. He's a friend of mine. I played hockey with him for a while.
Ah.
And we've since found many different roles for him. He had
Oh
a voice
yeah.
in Postal Redux,
Yep. As the
and
psychiatrist.
as a psychiatrist. People were screaming and yelling why he wasn't the Postal dude's voice when we launched Postal 4, and there's bigger reasons than, like, of course we liked him, but we were kind of walking on eggshells when we made Postal 4, and the last thing we wanted to do was remind everybody of Postal 3 out of the gate. So,
Oh yeah.
and with Rick gone again, it was like, who do we get? And John St. John was down, so we got him
Oh
into
yeah,
the
and he did
role.
a great job. I've liked
He
his
did.
take on Postal Guy. He's like a more mellower, in a way, Postal Guy, but at the same time, it's like you kind of feel like the Postal Guy needs it a little, after everything he's gone through in
Right.
2.
And quite frankly, after this long of me hearing it, it almost feels natural, right? Like I listen to Rick Hunter's lines, and I love Rick, but it sounds off to me now. Like the dude sort of having that like white trash, scratchy voice makes more sense than like this deep badass radio voice.
Right, right.
I'm not saying Rick Hunter isn't iconic and his stuff isn't
Oh
great,
yeah.
but it almost sounds out of place when you hear it the other way now.
Well, yeah, I mean,
So,
you spent like almost a whole year working
right.
on with 4 and everything. Yeah, you start to develop a feeling for that. I mean, that's completely understandable.
Of course,
But
and with Corey, one of the other reasons was we have another role for him in the game.
mm-hmm.
So you haven't seen it yet, but is in the game. So
yep. And I guess 4. It's pretty much like the idea for 4. Like you said, it was a big risk. Did you guys decide to and what led to the decision to work on 4?
we when we made Postal Redux, the idea was we should remake this game that nobody can play really anymore. It's old, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first started working on Postal 4, we're like, okay, well, we need to remake 2. 2 is what everybody played. 2 is what everybody buys. 2 is what everybody wants on console, blah, blah, blah. So we started working on what was called Postal 2x2, which was just an HD remake, of 2. And the more work we did on it, the more we realized, like, this is way too big of a project to just be a Postal 2 remake. So we sort of sidetracked Postal 2x2. We turned it into Postal 4, and we'll eventually do 2x2. But we just, with the amount of work it was going to take, it made more sense to make the next game. And as long as we controlled it, our devs made it, we made sure
Mm-hmm.
it was what made Postal 2 very popular, and
Mm-hmm.
we figured it would do all right. We put it out in early access, very, very broken, and we were pretty
Oh,
nervous.
I recall because I got it within the first few days. I got my copy
Yeah,
then.
we didn't know how people would react, and right out of the gate, they just trusted us, which was like totally crazy to hear because we knew what the build was like, and we
Mm-hmm.
know that we had given them Postal 3 before, so we didn't know how people would react. And even with that janky ass build, people supported it, and they still are. So,
Yep.
it's pretty awesome.
Yep. And now you're up to Thursday on the five on the of the 5 days. So you got one more day to go.
Yeah, one more day, and then a few months of fixing all the days up for 1.0. So,
Right, right.
yep.
And who knows then? Maybe DLC, maybe something else down the line.
We'll
One step
probably
at
have a couple different teams do a couple
a time.
different things. I mean, we'll probably have a team work on DLC. We'd like to have a team work on 2x2. And then we've got some other projects. We had a VR project that we were working on in between Redux and Postal 4 that never came out.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really shown anybody what it was, but it was a completely separate IP called Assault and Battery.
Ah,
And the characters are now in Postal 4. It's the radio
mm,
hosts, and
gotcha.
there's a couple billboards for it. So at some point, we'd like that to come out. And it'd just be nice to have a few different things in the oven as opposed to just one thing like we have right now.
Yep. Now with Postal 4, it seemed I'm now this is just from my observation. It feels like since you started releasing each day we're kind of treated like a almost like an episodic release almost. Was
Yeah.
that intentional? That was intentional?
Yeah. Part of one of the things we wanted to do with early access was not put out this full broken game and
Mm-hmm.
then fix it from there. It was like, how about we use it as the episodic things that Valve never really ended up going with? And,
Mm-hmm.
it sort of worked out. This is a very different early access timeline than anybody else has ever done. And it seems to have
Oh
worked
yeah.
out. I mean, obviously we've got a lot of people waiting for 1.0,
Mm-hmm.
and that's understandable. They've been
Oh yeah.
hurt by early access games before. So, we're just very
Oh yeah.
happy that people have supported us.
And I think what really helps is the fact you guys actually share and regularly update the schedule on what's the site called, Trespair or something like that.
I don't even know off the top of my head.
Yeah, but the fact that you have that there, that lets people see what you guys are working on and everything, and how things are progressing, I think that really has helped.
I mean, the whole idea is to make sure everybody knows what we're doing at all times.
Right. And of course, now you have a spin-off with Brain Damage coming out that you guys are publishing and a different company is developing. Where did that come about from?
An Eastern Bloc country is developing. So, a couple of years ago, the guys in Poland were hitting us up to make something, and obviously we were kind of hesitant because of what's happened in the past, and the more we talked to them and the more we saw of stuff they've done, we just decided that it probably would be okay. And we had an idea for a boomer shooter that we would have liked to make ourselves, but at the time we obviously don't have the time or the money. So we were like, you know what? Let's see what they have to offer. And we gave them the opportunity to sort of put together a pitch video to put up on Steam. And what they came up with was fucking brilliant. And
Oh yeah.
It's gotten a lot of support online. People are super excited for it, and including us. And it's just been awesome watching the game, come to life. And they just announced the other day that Corey Cruz is the voice of the Postal dude in Postal Brain Damage.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
there's gonna be a demo coming out in the next Steam Next Fest in October.
Nice. Oh, I cannot wait for that. I'll be getting that demo. I've been glad that Steam's been doing more and more demos lately, as opposed to it being a rare occurrence. That's pretty nice of that, But
exactly.
so,
I mean, that's what people want.
Exactly. Now with back to Postal 4, of course. And with each episode, each day, just like in Postal 2, or a new, you go to a new area, a new location. Like right now, you guys have roller coasters, a theme park, and everything. As you're working on that, was that stuff that you guys always wanted to do when we're finally implementing, or was that just stuff you guys keep coming up with each day? You're like, what do we do for this?
when we designed the theme park, it was like, well, we're gonna have some of these rides work. Like, the
Right.
whole idea is to have a very interactive world and have a lot of feature creeps. So, we
Hmm.
just put an intern programmer on that, and he made them work. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, because I just saw one of the videos, how do you say Civi 11, I believe, his
Yep.
video on Thursday, and I'm
Yep.
like, 'cause I haven't gone to the park yet, and you see this roller coaster that's basically a fetus coming right out. I'm like, what the? And then I'm like, oh, right, what company am I talking? What am I watching about here?
Yep. The
But I
womb
mean, yeah, just
coaster.
some of those ideas. It's just like you guys say, you have no regrets. Where
Yep.
did the title "No Regret" come from? I know that's supposed to be. I looked on the Urban Dictionary. It means when you get the wrong name or word on a tattoo. Is it playing off of that, or
Yeah, it came from like an old meme of a tattoo that somebody got that said "no regrets" by accident.
right?
So the whole joke was that this is like sort of a Vegas town, and they have a
Mm-hmm.
big billboard up, and it says "no regrets," but it's in neon. Like you can't fix it. So
Right. Oh, you definitely can't fix that.
it's just supposed to be a stupid meme. And I've had plenty of people come to me and they're like, "Hey, dude, I need you to know like your game's spelled wrong." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks for letting
Oh,
me know, man."
yeah, it's like the fact that if you go that far to put it in the game, that should tell people it's intentional.
Of course, pretty obvious, but
Yeah,
I
but
still feel like whenever someone tells me that, I'm like, "Oh, you got trolled."
now, like lately in the past couple of years, there seems to be a resurgence of the more throwback shooters and everything.
Yep.
And like, how has that been feeling for you guys? Just seeing all that and knowing people are wanting less, not more details and everything. Do you feel like that's
I
kind of
mean,
helped you guys?
it's awesome. The only thing is, I wish it was bigger before we started Postal 4 because fuck, I would have loved to have
Right.
made Postal 4 less detailed. Oh God.
Yeah.
It's
But
making a next gen shooter, even though we don't, stack up to the big boys is it's a real process, and being able to do these boomer shooters that have, Quake 1 graphics it's pretty awesome for the people doing it. I know that our team's definitely jealous of Hyperstrange because, you know, well, a lot less time is spent on making beautiful art than making fun gameplay. So, and that's not saying that the game's not
oh,
beautiful.
right,
It's just
right,
beautiful in a different way, right? Like you don't need
definitely.
fucking 4 different materials on each item to make them look beautiful. So, it's
Yeah, but like Dusk and everything. The fact that you
oh,
just have
exactly.
these.
And Dusk was out before we started working on Postal 4, but boomer shooters just weren't some huge phenomenon back there. And we
Yeah.
actually looked to them for advice on putting out an early access game because we were a little
Hmm.
nervous to do it. And they basically, guided us through that process. And they're good friends of ours over there. So
Oh, good to hear. Good to hear. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. Now, do you? How often? I mean, are you much of a gamer? Would you say? Are you one of those developers who? I mean, I assume you're a gamer, right?
I'm not as big of a gamer as I'd like to be. I did play a
Right.
lot of games during quarantine, but
Of
before
course.
quarantine, I hadn't played much games in years. I mean, really, the only games I picked up in that time period was like Red Dead Redemption 2. I
Right.
picked up GTA 5 for every console it came out for. Then quarantine hit, and I was like, all right, there's games I got to play. So I played Death Stranding. I finally
Hmm.
finished Red Dead Redemption 2. I replayed
Hmm.
GTA 5 again. And then there's a bunch of other little games I played, like the new Star Wars game.
Oh yeah. Wait, which one? Squadron or the other one? The other one?
No, the one with the kid from
The
Shameless.
Jedi. The Jedi. Yeah.
Yeah, Fallen Order, I think is what
Fallen
it's
Order.
called.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
then I played that hacker game, the one that takes place in San Francisco, Watch Dogs.
Watch Dogs. Yep. There's
Yeah, so
there's
I
three of
played
those.
some. Yeah, I played 2, and then I started 3.
Hmm.
And I started a bunch of other games, like everybody else,
Right.
and just didn't
Oh
play
yeah. Same here.
Control. I played Returnal, Control,
Hmm.
and I sort of fallen off again. Like life
Right.
kind of comes at me. I play sports. I play hockey 3 days a week. I bowl, so I don't really have a lot of gaming time, and I don't like
Right.
staying up all hours of the night. So
Oh,
it's
I
my
understand.
gaming is limited.
speaking of quarantine, that was one thing you guys implemented into Postal 4. I mean, that was probably an easy
Yeah.
decision to decide to do, right? Like,
Of course, it was just cheap pop. That was what was going on at the time. So we're like, you know what? Let's put masks in. Let's put our own virus called the
mm-hmm.
Pajona. And
Now, will that stay into the final build, you think,
yeah,
or well,
definitely.
all right.
I mean, look,
Okay.
we're not done with this yet. So
Oh yeah, definitely. I just imagine the story possibilities that more can come out from that. That's all.
yep,
But
exactly.
yeah, but now little story. I'm just more. I already told you this before we started, but I'm gonna say it to everyone else. Here's an example of those of you who don't know about Postal, the randomness that could happen. In the first day on Monday, you could walk around with a sign basically saying like "We'll work for food" or whatnot, like I'm working for work.
Yep.
And basically, you go to a bunch of people. Eventually, you go through like what 4 or 5, I think, before finally someone's supposed to point you in the right direction. I finally get to that guy right in the middle of the road, and one of the main vehicles is scooters. This guy, and I see him in the distance in a scooter. I'm like, oh, he's gonna go right by. Nope, he slammed into the guy that I was talking to, cutting off everything, and then the
Yep.
two start shooting each other. So I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm running out of there because I don't have that many weapons and everything. And then I'm like, okay, hey, it took me a moment to get someone that I could trigger to do it. And then the lady's about to talk. The asshole that was on the scooter was he starts running and starts shooting her. And I'm like, get away from me, you dick.
Yep.
And eventually I finally got to someone and was able to progress finally. I can just imagine the postal dude just like, oh boy, I thought I got away from this shit.
No, you'll never get away from it. That's the life.
Oh yeah. Same
That's
and
the
with
bad
Champ.
luck life of the dude.
Yep. And then with Champ and everything, it's like, can you keep a leash on that damn dog?
I mean, nope, he got to get lost. He's got to get lost in every game.
He has to get abducted, like in Thursday's day.
Exactly.
Yep, and so about how much longer? A guesstimate. I'm not saying an absolute. A guesstimate. How long do you think you until 1.0, or at least until you're done with Friday?
Friday should come out sometime before October, and then maybe a couple months on 1.0. So nothing's set in stone, but I'd say late September, early October for Friday, and then maybe before the end of the year or early next year for 1.0.
Oh, that would be awesome because I really like to because I'm a guy who likes story, and as nonsensical as Postal Story is, it's still a good, fun story, and that's what I like about it. Yep, but I can't wait for Brain Damage either to come out, and with just all of this, what would you say has been some of your favorite jokes and ones that you feel have held up in any of the games?
I'm sorry. Can you ask that question one more time?
Favorite jokes, and which one? And joke like ones that either have held up or you just love, even if they might be a little.
I love pissing on the dad's grave personally. Postal 3 had its own fair share of funny shit too. I mean, I really did like the Ron Jeremy stuff, even though it didn't play out very well.
Right.
But I'd say my favorite joke, which ended up being very prescient, and it was something that I wrote because I did write the original treatment for Paradise Lost, was the toilet paper shortage.
Oh boy, yeah, did that become relevant much later on? When it happened in real life, in real life, did you think God or someone was like, right, let's look at the game and like, hey, let's do that, boom.
Yep.
Yeah, because that must have been a big like. You got to be fucking shitting me.
Oh yeah. Nope, it was something I predicted. So that's why I'm a bidet man. That's why I use bidets in my house. Never rely on paper.
Right. Now, what would you say is a joke that you would either, if you could, get rid of or you completely regret? I mean, I'm sure there's a couple, but like, what is the biggest one?
I don't know, man. I don't
no regrets.
I don't live that life, man.
Hey, I just thought I'd ask you. There's some people who do still feel that way, even if they feel they have no regrets. There's sometimes always one regret, so I figured I'd ask. So,
nah.
Now, when it comes to playing, like with the second game, obviously there's some secrets like, oh, you go down that optional back tube where the terrorists are at and everything. Was that always something you just guys threw in there as like a joke, like in there, or what led to coming up with that area? Because that always felt like what's in there? Oh, crud, because it became a very hard area.
Well, that was not in the original build of the game. That was added
Oh,
in one of the updates. So it was just like
okay.
we needed to add a terrorist hideout area.
Hmm.
So
Okay, I was
yeah.
curious because I've never played the original version. I played the Steam version afterwards, and so for me, that was always there. So,
Oh yeah, no, that was added in later on.
yep. And I gotta say, I also like how you guys actually bring a lot of mods and everything. There's that one mod that people are still waiting to get implemented. I forget what it's called, but
Eternal damnation, not
Eternal
gonna happen.
Damnation. It's not going to happen. Oh,
No, the guy
uh,
that was working on it's one of our main programmers now. So
oh,
he's
oh, so one of those
unless
games.
his time frees up, which it's not going to, it's just not going to happen.
Okay, so it's one of those guys who was a modder who got elevated to a higher position, and
That's
now
pretty
because of
much our
that,
whole team. That's our whole team
oh,
is
that is
modders.
that's I love companies that do stuff like that who actually bring them in and actually, because it's like, hey, they know their shit. Why not?
Yep,
So
exactly. I mean,
yeah.
that's why everybody's working on their favorite game. So it's important for team motivation.
So going forward, where do you see the future with the games? I mean, obviously you're going to finish up 4 and Brain Damage, but are you just taking it one game at a time, one step at a time? Is that how you guys kind of operate?
Yeah, I mean, we do have ideas of things we want to do, but we just kind of gotta keep it grounded, finish what we're working on, and then we'll reevaluate then. I mean, we definitely don't have the time to split off people into working on 2x2 now or on the
Right.
VR project. I mean, it just needs to come when time frees up, and we have to reevaluate financially because these things do cost a lot of money,
Oh
and
yeah. Even with doing an early
definitely,
access.
yeah, and we've definitely wasted money before, so.
Oh,
We
yep.
just need to
Again,
make sure what we're working on comes out. So,
definitely.
vapor, or games that don't succeed, like Postal Redux, are kind of rough.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I bet. And but again, with just and that is a smart move to do, especially yeah, given how this gaming, the world we live in, anything could happen, and
Yeah,
probably will.
of course.
So yeah, I mean, I gotta say I'm running dry on things to talk about. So
That's
I hate to
okay.
say that. I hate to.
I got to take off soon anyway. So,
All right, that's completely understandable. But again, thank you so much.
hey
I
man, thanks for
love those
having me.
games. No problem. Again, I
No,
love the games that.
we're only here because of fans like you. So, you
Hmm.
guys keep playing them, we'll keep making them. It's important to us.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yep. Consider
just
me a day one buyer of Brain Damage when it comes out. I promise you that. And 2x4, whenever you guys get started on that, I will be buying that as well. And
cool.
trust me, I am not going to be one of those who's going to be like, hey, I have the second one. Can I get it for free? Oh, God, do not get me
Right.
started on those.
Oh yeah, we got a lot of those when Redux came out. But hey, I own
Oh,
Postal One. It's like what'd you pay? 75 cents for it? Get out of here.
exactly. I mean, there's sometimes where I'll be honest, I will sneak it in if I know there's going to be a discount and I know they're going to cut it off. Like
Sure.
when they, oh yeah, but it's like try and do it right beforehand so you can get a cheaper deal. But you know what I'm saying, right? But yeah, so
Exactly.
again, thank you so much. Keep up the good
Thank you,
work
man.
and
Of course.
cannot wait for 1.0.
Thank you,
Yep.
brother.
All
See
right.
ya.
And
Bye.
take care, everyone.